We can go live whenever you're ready. I seem to have a small problem in here, though. That it says I've lost internet connections.
You've what?
It says I've got no internet in here.
Oh, okay.
Which, if I've got no internet... let me just get... Let's get live on there.
Yeah. Has she called in yet, though?
No. Not that I've seen.
Well, I don't want to... She needs to call in, because I'm...
Okay, no, I'll talk with you. We can bullshit. We can talk. we can talk about what we were going to talk about in the second half, and then we'll just go back to it. Are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right, I'm going to get us on live right now, so no more talking.
All right.
Rag House Radio.
Good evening. This is the BBC Sports Channel. We're going to talk about football tonight. Good evening, Kerry Taylor. What's up?
Dutchie, okay, you caught me off guard there. We didn't have any intro music.
No, we had nothing.
We can roll with it.
We got no choice.
It's all good. It's all good. So
that's the reason this station has this name, you know.
Absolutely, Dutchie. So good evening and welcome to chaoticradio.com. I'm Kerry Taylor, and you are listening to Women Talking Football, a show that is about the game of football or soccer and how awesome women can influence the world's most beautiful game. So we're going to have a caller calling in a couple minutes. My friend Shonna Schroedl will be calling in, and in a second we'll be talking about her running for a position on the U.S. Soccer Board. Last week I was talking about getting more diversity on the U.S. Soccer Board, and actually I remembered that a friend of mine is running. So she'll be calling in a couple minutes. Until then, Dutchie and I...
What is the U.S. Soccer Board?
What is the U.S. Soccer Board? So U.S. Soccer, which is our governing soccer body, they have an executive board. And last week we talked about the fact that there's only 2 women on the board out of 16. So every couple years, positions come open, and my friend Shonna is running for one of the seats on the Adult Council of Representatives. So she's going to tell us basically the process, how the campaigning goes, what exactly the board does. And currently she's involved with USASA, which is U.S. Adult Soccer Association.
Uh-huh.
So I believe she's the secretary on that. And I know the show, we've kind of been talking mostly about the youth game, but the first part of the hour we'll be talking more about the adult game, because football or soccer is a sport that you can play basically cradle to grave, hopefully. So
cradle until your knees give out.
Until your knees give out, or your hip, or you just can't.
Even then, though, you know what is funny? I dated a girl about 15 years ago, And she started playing for the first time ever and playing in a women's league where there were 50, 60, and 70-year-old women playing.
70-year-old women?
Oh, my God. They had a blast. They were so competitive.
Well, I went to a tournament in Vegas, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, until I was, like, late 30s or whatever. And it was awesome, like, just getting out on the field. I think we saw some of the women out there that were probably almost double my age, but it's amazing.
It is amazing. Do you know the proudest game I ever played?
No.
3 years ago.
Okay.
Just turned 51. Coaching U19 Boys Premier League in CSL.
Yeah.
One of the guys come in, had 3 of the other players, so 4 of my players in one car. Car broke down. Gave us 10 players. And it was just a friendly.
Right.
They were going, Coach, you play. You run 5 mile a day. You play 3 games a week. Okay, let me ask the ref. So
Right.
we asked the ref. The other coach said yes. One of the best games I ever played. I'm so proud of myself.
Good for you.
And
did you get a medal?
Yeah, I bought myself one. I went down the store.
Did you get a medal?
Yeah. All right. I believe we've got our guest on the phone.
We've got our
I'm
guest
going to bring
on the
her in.
phone. Okay.
Make sure the phone's unmuted. I think we are. Chaoticradio.com. This is Dutchie. Who do we have on the line? It says PH on it.
PH. Oh. Okay.
There we go.
Unmuted. There we go.
Chaoticradio.com.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Shonna Schroedl.
Hi, Shauna. It's Carrie. And
Hello.
Dutchie's also on the line. He's one of our owners, and he adds some comic relief to the show sometimes.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it. Why don't you just take a couple minutes and kind of introduce yourself and tell our listeners about your soccer background, and then we can kind of get into all the cool things that are coming up in your life in the near future.
Okay, thank you for inviting me to be on the show, first of all. So I am currently one of 4 officers for U.S. Adult Soccer Association. U.S. Soccer Federation is our parent governing body, and we are underneath the federation like the Youth Council and the Professional Council and the Athletes Council. So U.S. Adult Soccer currently is the only national member of the Adult Council, and I have been on the board as the board secretary for the past 7 years.
Okay.
I am also vice president for Oregon Adult Soccer Association, and I have been in that position for quite a long time, since 1993.
Oh, wow.
And prior to that, I was involved with a women's league in the Portland, Oregon area. It was at that time the only women's league in the area. When I played soccer in college at University of Oregon, and was one of my the most exciting thing that happened there was my team, when I was a freshman, we were part of the first women's national championship tournament for collegiate women's soccer programs.
That is amazing. I don't think many people realize like how big a deal that is. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. You rock.
Yeah. So at the time, the national championship was a long weekend tournament, not an extensive, knockout round program like it is now. It started as a round robin tournament,
Right.
and so the first championship was held at University of North Carolina. Not surprisingly, they stepped up and were willing to host the event, and it was quite exciting, and so happy to have been part of that initial event. So I have played quite a long time. I started in youth soccer, and then, like I said, played in college, and I have played on women's competitive teams for quite a few years after college, and then have moved more into recreational teams, but I still participate in national championships for age group for over 40, over 50, and so I still enjoy playing. I just don't play quite as much as I used to, back when I could recover quickly. with U.S. Adult Soccer, I have also had the opportunity to serve on quite a few different committees that manage different programs and events for the organization. And I am currently on the Disability Committee for U.S. Soccer Federation, and I have previously been on the Diversity Committee for the Federation. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. And at the annual meeting that's coming up here in a month, I am running for the position of Vice President for U.S. Adult Soccer, and I'm running for one of 2 seats on the Federation board that the Adult Council is entitled to.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm like super proud of you because you are very, very into being involved at the highest organizational level. And that, do you find many other women are sitting at the tables that you're at on these committees or within these boards that you're sitting on currently?
Well, currently we have one other woman on the U.S. Adult Soccer Board, and she is our national treasurer, Lori Stoneburner from Alaska. So of the 14 elected members to that board, there are 2 women. As you mentioned last week on your show, we were talking a little bit about the U.S. Soccer Federation board, and there are currently 2 other women. One is an independent director, Donna Shalala, and one is an athlete representative, currently Cindy Cohn. And I don't know when the terms are up for the athlete representatives, and so I'm not sure, the term for how long Cindy will be on the board. But I assume if she's not, there will most likely be another representative from the women's national team program.
Right.
As far as committees go, it's, there are other women certainly on the Disability Committee and the Diversity Committee for the Federation, so that's nice to see. And other committees for U.S. Adult Soccer that I've seen, it just, there have not been a lot of women, but there are some others.
What can I ask? What is a disability committee?
The Disability Committee for U.S. Soccer Federation helps to promote soccer among populations that have a physical disabilities, and that includes the Paralympic team comes under that umbrella a bit, or I should say the coach of the Paralympic team is on that committee as well. And then we have, there are other groups like Power Soccer, athletes who use wheelchairs. And I am on that committee because I actually, I have 2 children who, I have 4 children total, but 2 of my children are have types of dwarfism. And so they're involved with Dwarf Athletic Association of America and participate via that organization. So also the Disability Committee, looks at like returning military vets who may be amputees or, different physical impact.
Well, that's fantastic because I didn't even know. I knew there was a diversity committee, but I didn't know that there was a disability committee. So
and it's funny, Kerry, isn't it? Because we never think about stuff like that because you run every day, and until I had a knee injury a couple of years ago, I'm running 5 mile a day, and we go out and play our games, and it's all just like so cool and so easy, and it's like you said, adult soccer is. It's one of the better. When we coach a kid at 10, if we can keep them playing till they're 40 or 50, it's just cool as hell,
It is. And, we have, through U.S. Adult Soccer, we have our annual Adult Soccer Festival that provides national championship opportunities for age groups up to, we have a men's over 75 bracket.
What?
We have
over 75?
Over 75.
That
and
is
possession game, right?
That
possession
is
game.
Amazing.
Put the fastest man up front.
I love that. I love that.
Yes, and the women's division goes up to over 65. And 2 years ago, my mother was on a team that won women's over 65. So she
That's
attained
great.
national championship status.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yes.
Wow, I got to come out of retirement because I want to win a national
You
championship.
can't be retired.
I don't
How old are you?
I'm 44.
Oh,
and
yeah, you can be, yeah.
It
Yeah,
hurt. It hurts too
Aw.
bad to
Aw.
play.
Aw.
I'm running a half marathon on Sunday, but I seriously I can't
Stop running marathons and start playing football again.
No.
Yes, yes. So, one of the interesting things I will tell you is when I have played over 50s national championship, I am still playing against some of the same players that I played against at that first college national championship.
Wow, that's got to be so just killer to like go have a beer after the game and rehash, from the college days and stuff.
But to see those same opponents out there when you're like, oh my gosh, you probably beat me when I was in my 20s, and you probably beat me when I was in my 30s, and now look, I'm still playing against you. So
You
or
won't
vice
beat me
versa.
when I'm in my 70s, though.
Right. It's going to be who can last the longest.
Yeah, that's I mean, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of times those of us that are coaching within the youth game, I think we forget that there's life after the youth game in the sport. And just hearing about your mom winning a national championship and all this, like I'm actually like inspired to maybe go play some more because I don't know, it's awesome. Like it is,
and I think you'd be very, very surprised at the quality of play of the older players, because these are people who played, the highest level that was available to us at the time. I mean, when I was in college, there was no women's national team.
Right.
So that was as high a competition level as we could find anywhere. And so it's not, people who never played and, weren't that good. It's quite the opposite. It's players who are very talented, and they've slowed down a bit, but the competitive drive is certainly still there.
Right. So when are the adult national championships? Like when the timing of it? Is it like in the summertime or?
It is in the summer. It's in July, and this year it's being held in Nashville.
Okay.
It's typically the middle of July. This year it's the 12th through the 16th, and we get about 100 teams total from over 30 through, over 75. We have a separate event for our highest level men's competitive teams in open.
Okay.
And so that's held, in a different style at a different time. And this is, sort of all of the other teams that want to pursue a national championship.
Now, is there a qualifying tournament before that, or can you just, like, say...
there is not a qualifying tournament. It's sort of self-selected with people, teams knowing that...
They can compete.
That what the level of competition is going to be.
Okay. Well, I'm asking for myself because now I'm kind of interested. I'm thinking like, hey, I could put my old University of Michigan women's team back together.
Did you?
You
sneaky!
We could have like an alumni thing going on, because we were talking about, actually, ironically, we were talking about going to one of the Vegas adult tournaments in April or something, and it might be time to put the band back together. So
absolutely, it would be a great time to do that. So.
Dutchie, you can come watch. Sure.
Observer. Yeah.
You've never seen me play, have you?
No, never.
Oh, okay. I'm not very nice.
No, I already knew that.
Does that surprise you at all?
No, it doesn't surprise me, no. You're so focused when you do it. And we're lucky enough to teach with each other. And I do see when people don't put their effort in, it pisses you off.
Yeah. Well, that's just kind of my personality, but anyways. All right, so let's talk about, Shonna, you running for this U.S. Soccer Board position. So what kind of made you decide, like, hey, I want to put my hand up and I want to get involved at that level? So kind of when did you decide, like, what's driving you for that?
In the last few years, I began thinking about it, and I've sat back and watched for several years other people get into positions that I knew I was just as qualified or more than qualified. I've done quite a few things in addition to my positions with adult soccer. I worked for Women's World Cup in 99 and 2003. I worked for the Portland Timbers when they were a USL team. And so I have, I feel like I have a pretty strong and diverse background.
Absolutely,
and
you do.
have
Absolutely.
been, in a lot of different areas and have always proven that I'm more than capable and have put on a lot of successful programs and events. So that I thought I just needed to step up and do it and decide for myself. And I wasn't going to wait for somebody to say, okay, it's your turn, or, we think you might be ready. I know I'm more than ready to do it. I know that, I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. So I just decided to do it. I also feel very strongly that U.S. Soccer Federation really does need to have more diversity on their board.
Yeah.
And, we as a soccer country promote that other nations should really boost their women's programs. And I think that we do a pretty good job of doing that.
Right.
But to not have people on the board that are female or, other, people of color, et cetera.
Right, just
we need to
overall
do a better
diversity.
job
Yeah,
at that.
overall
Exactly,
diversity. Yeah.
exactly. I think, the more voices from different backgrounds is just going to be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, because, the more differences in opinions and the more different, things that get brought up, because I think men and women think differently. And, I think it's healthy to have multiple opinions, at those board levels and saying, hey, what about this or what about that? Or did you think of this? Because, if everybody's from the same kind of environment, then you're not getting necessarily like new ideas coming in or different ways of thought. So I am super proud of you. And so how does one like go about getting elected? So you say, okay, hey, I want to go after this board position. How does the process of campaigning kind of go? Like what do you have to do?
Well, to have a position on the U.S. Soccer Federation board, basically you'd need to fit into a category of, for example, the Adult Council has 2 representatives. The Youth Council has 2 representatives. There are some independent directors. Those are people who are from outside of the soccer world that bring other expertise. Then there's athlete representatives, the professional council representative, or running for president or
Right.
the executive vice president. So from my experience, what I've seen is to be in a position to run for a position either for the adult council or the youth council, a person would have most likely needed to work their way up, over the years, being having a state association position and then looking at regional positions and or national positions, so that you get to know enough people so that you have the support of the individuals. The position I'm running for will be voted on only by the adult council delegates.
And who are those adult council?
Those would be state association officers, most likely. So each state has between one, in the adult council, each state has between 1 and 6 votes, depending on how large their membership is.
Okay.
And so, and just like with youth, some of the adult states are split in half, like California, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, the bigger states. So we have 54 state associations, and like I said, they could have between 1 and 6 votes. So for my campaign, I first announced formally last June that I would be running, and really worked prior to that and since that time to engage with a lot of different people to solicit their support or at least ask them to consider voting for me in this position.
And that vote's coming up in March, you said?
Yes, we will be at the annual general meeting for the Federation the first weekend in March. So on that Saturday.
Well, I am going to be keeping my fingers crossed that you get voted in, because you are a rock star and you have definitely put in the time at various different levels and committees and everything. And I'm so excited that you're making a run at it, because you're going to do an awesome job when you get elected. Like, absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. So I'm hopeful that the individuals who have pledged support to me will continue to do that, and that others will support me as well. Yeah. So, I feel like I can bring a new, fresh voice to the board of directors and also help steer U.S. adult soccer in some meaningful ways.
So we have a question from Facebook, and it says, can or should state members call or contact their associations and encourage them to vote for you? Is that something that can happen?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what state this person is from, but I think that that's something in any state that people should feel free and enabled to do. Their state board members are there to serve them. So just like any other kind of organization, we always hope that they're representing their members. So that would be wonderful if they could do that, get a hold of their state association president, and all of those individuals are listed on the U.S. Adult Soccer website with an email and or a phone number. And certainly our national office can help somebody reach a person if they don't have a contact for them.
Okay, well, I'm calling on all my soccer people across the country to reach out to their state board members and say, vote for Shonna. So.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll put it on my Facebook. I'll look up the website and the numbers, and we'll get that out there, because we need you. We need you in there. For sure.
Shonna, I have a question. It's
yes.
Being on committees is what people who are playing the game and the people on the sidelines don't see any of. They have no appreciation of the sometimes the boredom of being at a meeting for 2 hours and 3 hours, and that the side of the game that is given to them. And it doesn't matter if you're 15, 25, or 65. You show up, you pull out your bag, you put on your boots, and you go on the field and you play. What is there something that you're trying? Is there something you have in your mind that you want to try and achieve if you get elected to this? Is there something you look at the game and go, this needs to be changed, or I hope I can take this to the next level? It's already good, but I need to take it to the next level.
Well, one of the things that I've already been working on, in particular for the adult side, is we started an initiative about 5 years ago working with the National Recreation and Park Association. The reason was to attempt to get better access to municipal-owned fields in this country. I don't think that the youth have as much of a problem with this, but the adults certainly do. There are many parks and rec districts that basically do not allow adults to use their soccer fields. So I first attended a National Recreation and Park Association meeting, like I said, 5 or 6 years ago, and I sat in on several different workshop sessions where directors of different agencies were talking about methods and things they were putting in place to not allow adults to use fields, because in their view, they were either tearing up the fields or they were having problems like leaving garbage or bringing alcohol out or something. So they were saying, giving advice on different ways to not allow use of the fields. And we look at it as we're taxpayers. These are taxpayer-owned athletic fields, and yes, youth need to use them, but there also should be time for adults to be able to participate. And it was interesting because at that same Recreation and Park Association meeting, they talked quite a bit about adult obesity in this country.
Right.
And so we were looking at it as you're trying to cut out a way for people to exercise. And so we have, since that time, participated more in these meetings and reached out to leadership and, discussed our viewpoints on this, that, look, you have a lot of people out there that need some healthy forms of exercise. You want to probably work with an affiliated organization that has good liability insurance and can monitor the behavior of our players, with as far as working with referees and, even if it's somebody doing some kind of damage or inappropriate behavior. So that's one of the things that we've been doing, is just to, open up the use of fields to adults. We've also talked nationally about the same thing for school-owned properties that are keeping both youth and adults out from using those properties, which are also, taxpayer-funded fields. So that is one of the things, because one of the biggest complaints we hear is, lack of fields.
Right.
Lack of fields is huge, but one of the greatest things we have right down the street from where we're in the studio right now is an unbelievable indoor arena with 4 fields. They have 7-on-7, and then they have 2 smaller fields for 4-on-4. That's just totally dedicated. They even took the basketball courts out. And the amount of adults that are playing in there, it's nonstop from 6 o'clock to midnight. It's adults playing soccer.
That is great.
Where are they around the world, around the country? Should we be looking at that instead of the outside as well as the inside?
Oh, absolutely, because one of the things that we're really looking at also are opportunities for more small-sided games and opportunities where people don't have to say, okay, I'm going to drive a half hour, go warm up for a half hour, play for 2 hours, and then drive again. So I'm looking at, 3 or more hours out of my day. So opportunities where I can go somewhere and play a quick game for an hour and, be with my friends, have a great experience. So, whether it's indoor arena or futsal or, 7-a-side on small fields, outdoor or something like that, we are really exploring all those types of opportunities to give more people just the exposure to the game. It may not be in the traditional 11v11 format, but it's still exposure, and it brings more people in and enables a lot more people to enjoy being part of soccer.
So a quick question to both of you ladies. You ever played indoor soccer?
Yeah, I grew up. I grew up in Michigan, Dutchie.
No, yeah, but I'm talking about small-sided indoor soccer,
yeah,
in California.
In California,
as an adult, not as a kid. As an adult.
No, not really indoor here.
Scared? Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared. It's just,
you sound scared.
No.
Yeah. Thought people from Michigan were tough.
We are tough. Shut up.
No, you'd get out of the cold and go and play indoors. Now play indoors because it's really fun and it's really competitive, and the women want to kick the men's ass.
Well, here's my struggle with playing indoor. A lot of the leagues that at least I've come in contact out here are co-ed. The only women's league that I found when I was still playing when I first moved out here was Sundays outdoor, but I was always coaching, so it was like I can't go continue to play because I'm out on the field coaching my teams, and the only leagues I could find were co-ed, and to be completely honest, the men were assholes and out of control, and I was worried about getting hurt and not being able to coach the next day.
Because you were better than everyone on the field.
Well, and my assistant coach just broke her foot because some jerk cleaned her out, and she's a former professional player, and now she's walking around on a broken ankle. So just for me, as I age, that kind of bothers me because I still need to be on my feet out on the field almost every single day. So,
Shonna, does the U.S. Soccer Association have anything to do with those kind of leagues?
We do in some places. So a lot of indoor facilities, I'm more familiar with the ones in Oregon. You know, they're standalone for-profit organizations, and they don't necessarily see a need to join with U.S. Adult Soccer. But we do have some state associations where they're quite successful in bringing those arena leagues and associations under our umbrella. One of the things I want to add that we've recently just started in this last year, walking soccer has become something that's growing in United Kingdom. And we have had some walking soccer events and leagues in this area, and including in the Portland area, I guess about a year ago, one of the indoor centers did a weekend tournament, and they had divisions of suds and no suds. And the suds division, you could play while carrying your can of beer. So,
Dutchie, that would be good for you.
I'm sorry, what's that on the table? We could
a-
get a co-ed
it's a
league
water
going with
bottle.
it. Yeah, exactly.
It's
yeah.
a water bottle.
Said the referee.
right. And walking soccer is actually much more difficult than you would think, because you
not
have
for
to
me, it
walk
wouldn't
fast.
be.
You're not allowed to run at all, and basically the ball needs to stay on the ground. But it was pretty interesting to try it. So I participated in that tournament that weekend, and it was pretty fun. There's now a league up in the state of Washington that's walking soccer, and there are a couple of places in Oregon that are looking at starting that as well as a full-fledged league.
That's really, really interesting. I haven't, I'm trying to visualize what it would look like in my mind, and I think I would have to see it in order to really appreciate it. Because I mean, it sounds like you mentioned it's harder than you think. Like, it sounds quite easy. Like, okay, hey, we're just gonna walk around and here you go. But you would almost have to be super accurate with your passing. And,
absolutely, yes.
Can you tackle the ball away from someone still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are, each league or tournament is going to have their own variation on the rules, but they also try to make a safe zone for the goalie. So, if a goalie goes down to pick up the ball, somebody's not going to whack their head. And
right.
But yes, you can, and it's an interesting equalizer also, because there are people who may not be as good at regular, 11v11 outdoor soccer who could excel at
right.
this and really surprise you. But I also feel like it's one of those things that it's a good introduction for people who've never participated before, especially as adults, because they don't have that intimidation of, I'm not in shape.
Right. Yeah, and again, you mentioned the health and physical fitness for adults. I mean, that's a good way to, if you can't necessarily run, then you can still get up off the couch and be active that way. So we have another Facebook question. The question is, the U.S. Soccer Foundation gives money for youth fields and programs. Do they have any similar type grants for adults, or could they? Is that something that they ever look at, whether it's through U.S. Adult Soccer or whether it's through U.S. Soccer Federation? Do you know any of that at all?
U.S. Adult Soccer programs have not been as successful in accessing the foundation money. When the foundation was first established and they were really putting money into fields, many of those fields were for both youth and adults. Mm-hmm. My belief is the program or the grants have turned more in the last few years to supporting urban youth types of programs.
Right.
And I feel like it seems like that's where their emphasis has been more recently. I'm assuming that they don't exclude applicants
right.
Just because they're adults, but they have adult programs have not been as successful in getting the money.
Right. So, what other type of things? I'm going to speak in the fact that you're going to get on the U.S. Soccer Federation board. So, what other types of goals or ideas do you have as a hopeful and incoming board member? Because I want to think positive for you.
You know, I would like to obviously see more gender equity.
Right.
You know, I will say that the very first annual meeting I ever attended in 1993, there was discussion at the full National Council regarding should we be giving health insurance to our women's national team. And I was shocked and stunned that there was even a discussion about this. And apparently other people were shocked too. One gentleman got up and said, "Excuse me, I don't understand why we are wasting time talking about girls' soccer."
Oh.
Now, my shock
not
was
girls'
the
soccer.
opposite way. I had no idea they weren't providing health insurance for our women's national team players.
Right.
But so we have come a long way. And I will also tell you that same gentleman who made that statement, when our team was doing wonderfully well in '99, he was traveling around the country supporting the team and enjoying it. And in 2003 in Portland, U.S. played Germany, and he was sitting right there in the VIP section. So I thought how interesting that was.
So he got converted to being a supporter eventually, hopefully.
I'm gonna say he got converted, but
Okay.
he probably more likely he was enjoying being a VIP at a national team game. But I will always remember that statement, and you know, I think that there's still obviously a long ways to go.
Right.
And in that area. I'd also, you know, I'd love to see better support for our Paralympic team. And one of the things that I forgot to mention is the Paralympic coach on one of our disability committee calls announced that this year he can select women for the team as well. There's not going to be a separate women's Paralympic team, but he can select women for that team.
Well, I was going to ask about that because I have seen, I do follow the men's Paralympic team, and I've always, you know, being the female, the pro woman supporter that I am, I'm always like, well, why isn't there a women's Paralympic team, or why isn't the women's deaf national team technically underneath the Youth Soccer Federation? So
I tried to get hold of them, they wouldn't return a call.
Hey,
Right.
Dutchie, that's yeah. Anyways, because I know that Amy Griffin and Joy Fawcett are the coaches for the U.S. Women's Deaf National Team.
Yes.
But it's not technically like connected with the Soccer Federation, as I understand it, and that would be one thing that I would hope at some point they look at bringing that team underneath the umbrella, because they've won like 3 or 4 deaf world championships or whatnot.
Exactly, yes, and I don't know all of the reasons for that, and that's certainly something I'm very interested in exploring and finding out more about as well. I do, you know, strongly feel that we should be supporting our differently abled populations and allowing them to reach the highest level that they can as well.
Right. So we have a Facebook question. I love that questions are coming in because it means people are actually watching and listening. And the question is, can you tell us more about gender equity within U.S. soccer from your point of view? Or
so I'm assuming this is probably in relation to the national teams?
Probably. Yeah.
And so, you know, what I know about the situation is what I have read from different sources, and I have tried to find many different sources because, you know, there's what I see and feel just, you know, from my own perspective,
right.
And then there's the whole business perspective part of it. And so I try to look at all of the different sides. You know, my belief about the whole thing is that, you know, they